Welcome to the FSF PopCast Crossover Connection bonus episode. Welcome to a very special edition of the FSF PopCast. We're calling this the Crossover Connection. It's the first of a very new and exciting line of shows that we're hoping to bring to you. Each and every Wednesday, we're hoping to present to you another podcast that we work closely with that we think that you, our audience, would enjoy. Today, we present to you Science Fiction Remnant, a collection of nerds just like us who love science fiction. We strongly encourage you to not only listen to this episode, but then go find their show on Apple Podcasts and give it a follow. Thanks for listening.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. And today we have a treat for you guys. We got the funny science fiction podcast to talk about this Star Trek movie with us.
The best Star Trek movie. What are you talking about?
The best Star Trek movie ever made. So for all of you guys, and I'm not sure if, if our listeners by now, that you should have heard from you guys if you actually follow our tweets. But for all of our listeners who have not heard of you guys, can you guys, tell them a little bit about yourself, what is your show about, where they can find them, and introduce each one of you.
Sure. I was elected with a coin flip before the, actually I was voluntold. Okay, so I'm Tim. I am Tim. I'm one of the three hosts of Funny Science Fiction Podcast. And so the premise of our show is to not take science fiction so seriously. We like to have a laugh. We like to have fun. We like to joke around. And when we have, so on our weekly recorded show, that is an interview-based style show where we have different people come on, whether recently we've talked with Sam Witwer, the voice of Darth Maul. We've talked with Taylor Gray, the voice of Ezra Bridger from Star Wars Rebels. We've had Cameron Bykendova, the actress who plays Selena Kyle in the TV show Gotham, and a bunch of others. So our whole premise is to share some laughs with them. We do ask some serious questions, of course, but we also we slide in the silly or dare I say stupid questions as well, just to have some fun, kind of mix it up, shake it up a little bit. And then on Monday nights, every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have except for tomorrow, of course, we have our live show where it's completely opposite. It's a live show. It's a panel discussion where it's almost an anything goes. It's
where chaos reigns.
Chaos does reign. So yeah, but yeah, I'm Tim.
As long as it's not the Reign of Fire.
Could be. I make no promises.
I don't know. Sometimes it's glorious and sometimes it's train wreck, and you never know what you're going to get until you're in the middle of the show, which is kind of fun.
But then we always feel better when we rally towards the end. We're like, yes, we pulled this off.
we didn't die. Yeah.
And if you stay to the absolute end, we do the MIB flash thing on you so you forget everything. So
exactly, which
that
is
true.
The only way that we have people coming back the next week.
Yeah, they don't remember.
So, yeah.
Forgotten the nonsense they saw the week before. Yes. So Tim has already introduced himself. I'm Kathleen. I am the newest of the hosts. I've just celebrated my first anniversary with the show.
Awesome.
Yay.
But
it's been a year already.
It's been a year already.
Nick's like, it's been so
oh my
long.
gosh,
I can't believe it's been a year.
It's only been a year with her.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it's been a year already. I am definitely the chaos bringer to the group, but that's part of the fun.
Just a little bit.
I know all about chaos. I work on a live stream every weekend called Radio Chaos. So.
Oh, there you go.
You know
all about that.
You have to bring it in, and sometimes my chaos on Monday nights is definitely fueled by the Truly in my hand, and it makes it better. It's a personality enhancer.
Hey, look, you putting duct tape on your beer and calling it a personality enhancer does not make it that.
Yes, it does. I have labeled it as such, and so therefore it is.
Speaking of which, Robert, have you got your standard glass of scotch there at the moment?
Well, today I'm having wine.
Ooh. he's moved up market.
Mini much
I was
better.
gonna say I saw the wine glass and I was like, if he's drinking scotch out of a wine glass, that's just fancy.
You fancy.
No, I have one of those whiskey glasses for that.
There you go.
As I have
Nick,
it
don't
might be-
forget to
it might
introduce
be
yourself.
Might be booze
Oh, I
o'clock
thought
for
we
you
were gonna
guys.
And I'm Nick, aka Blade, or aka Stash.
AKA
I
Mr.
bring-
Editor Man.
Yeah, I also do the editing for the show, and also one of the co-hosts. And
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, I do the editing for hours. I
He's the one
I
who
sympathize.
tries to keep us in line.
Yeah, there was one time he edited the entire show out, and we had to do it again.
that was a
We've had that
do-over.
before.
It was better the next time. We practiced.
There you go. Sometimes practice is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
It
not
might be
bugged
booze
out of it.
o'clock where you guys are, but it's morning down here in Australia, so no booze.
Oh.
Irish coffee.
It's noon
Take a hit
somewhere.
from the Irish.
So
it's 5 o'clock, a couple hours east of here.
there you go. All good.
Nice. So, for all of you who have not listened to the podcast, you should go ahead and download it. It's amazing. And I was actually,
Yes,
I
please.
showed up in one of their episodes, and I have a lot of fun. So, yeah, you guys should go pick up on your I believe you guys are anywhere podcasts are available, right?
Yeah, you can find us anywhere, wherever your favorite podcast, audio podcast provider is. Also, we have a YouTube channel. Please go subscribe there. You can watch all of our interviews and replays of our live show. Actually, our live show is actually streamed to our YouTube channel as well. So, and then of course you can find us on any social media site as Funny Sci-Fi, all one word.
Awesome.
We also have the Facebook group that started the podcast, which is 201,000
One.
members.
Yeah,
Yeah, 201,000 members right now.
Wow.
So
Nice.
Yeah.
it's a little crazy.
and if you love memes, that's the place to go.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, as long as you can follow the rules, because the admins are tired.
And drinking Truly with words duct taped to the side of the can. But
It works, Tim. Try it sometime. Don't knock it till you try it.
Nice. Okay, so I guess we can move on to our first segment.
Define science fiction remnant.
Okay, and in this segment, basically the question is, how would you describe our show to someone that likes sci-fi and you think they might like our show? And this came across from a conversation that I had on Twitter, how we're technically not a review podcast. So basically, I post this on Twitter. So if you want to be featured in one of our episodes, just go ahead and respond whenever I post those questions, and you might be the next one on in one of our future episodes. For this episode, I have Angelus, where he says what fans of sci-fi actually sound like. And I'm going to
nice.
open it up to you guys if you have any comments on that, or if you want to.
Well, sure. If you don't mind, I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
So one of the things I've been able to listen to a few episodes, and one of the things I like about your guys' show is that it's very, I don't want to say mild, okay, but a lot of times when people start talking about theories, they get really worked up and they get almost to the point where it's no longer a discussion. It's an argument with, the invisible person on the other side of the microphone from them. And so what I like about your show is that for me, it's a discussion about shows. It's like you said, it's not really a review show, but it's a discussion about shows and theories where there's actual discussion. It's not, I'm going to shout over top of you until my voice is the only one that's heard. And so I do like that.
Thank you. Ray is a lot more familiar with this, but since the beginning, me and Giancarlo always try to keep negativity out of the show, to the point that even if there's an episode that we don't like, we rather not not do it at all. So that makes me feel good that you actually noticed that, because that's one of the intents on our show.
Did you just speak his name and he appeared?
Yes.
You summoned?
I summoned the Giancarlo.
Whoa.
He might be having some technical difficulties. So
is there ever a day he's not?
So okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the next segment. We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is SciFi.
And just like in every other episode that we have done, this is where we discuss the hashtag This Is Sci-Fi. And if you hear from that clip that we play in every episode, we have the Funny Science Fiction Podcast there too. So,
Hi.
So the whole idea for This Is Sci-Fi hashtag is I was kind of wanting to join up all the not just sci-fi fans, but sci-fi creators, not just podcasters, but also writers, movie makers, anybody that produces, that is a sci-fi creator or sci-fi fan under one hashtag. It kind of came from those old sci-fi commercials. I don't know if you're familiar with those, where they ran this, and at the end they would say like, "This is sci-fi." So I had the idea to do this because it's so much fun to be able to collaborate with other individuals about something that we love so much, and in the process we discover so much that we don't know about, and that's one of the cool things that I noticed in the past on the This Is Sci-Fi hashtag, is that I seen people discovering new properties that they would not be aware of normally, and also I see how there's comparison between properties where you have two fan bases talking together about their property and finding commonality between the two. And whenever I see that, it just tickles my fancy. It's amazing. And that's basically the idea behind my thought of having that hashtag, where we can all join forces. And if you're a sci-fi fan, that's where you would go. I usually move on to Ray and see his thoughts on that. I don't know what he had discovered this week in the hashtag. I'm always on the hashtag, and I'm always posting different things. So I'm going to go around and see if you guys have encountered anything on that hashtag. You can go ahead and bring your comments too. And also, what does that hashtag means to you as a sci-fi fan? Right?
Well, I must admit that I haven't been keeping a close eye on it this week. I was a little busy with a few other things in RL. But as I've reiterated multiple times, I do love that hashtag in that it draws people with a love of science fiction together. And, of course, that ties into the movie that we're going to be talking about today, because it is about fandom. In a major part of the themes of the movie. So I feel that the This Is Sci-Fi hashtag and the topic this week are very well aligned.
Awesome. And if you guys want to mention anything about it, feel free. If not, we can move on to the next segment.
Sorry, I was just looking at the thread of the hashtag on Twitter, and one of the things that has amused me is This Is Sci-Fi and the different droids and robots that we have seen through sci-fi, anything from R2-D2 to Bender. And I think it's cool that you get, even in a robot, in a droid, you have so much variety that it doesn't matter if it's telling you Danger Will Robinson or telling you to kiss its shiny metal ass, it's still sci-fi.
Yes.
It's still sci-fi.
There you go.
Tim's like, you only said that so that you could say ass on the air. Yes, I did.
Yes, I know exactly why you said what you said. I know you. I've been around you long
Danger,
enough.
Will Robinson. Danger.
And
I think for me,
I was just going to say briefly, and that's one of the points that I love the most. What you brought up is the fact that, we with that hashtag we kind of get outside that little bubble, and we can explore different fandoms. So if you're not, if you're like a Star Trek fan, and you never heard anything about, or you haven't crossed over to the Star Wars, you get to hear that. You get to hear Galactica. You get to hear all the other fandoms, and hopefully you can hear some sort of something similar to your fandom that pulls you up and say, now I'm curious.
Right, and I think that is a cool thing about sci-fi too, is that even within the fandoms there is so much overlap, and there are callbacks to other sci-fis within sci-fi shows. Even there are Doctor Who references in Futurama. There are Star Wars references in Doctor Who. There's Star Wars references in Star Trek. I mean, they bounce every which way because it is all interconnected, because it is all sci-fi, and the typical sci-fi nerd likes all of it.
Awesome.
Nothing's created in a bubble.
No.
correct.
No, there was...
So by the transitive property, Star Trek is Star Wars.
It is. It is. There is... I don't remember where it is, but I remember there's a Star Wars reference in a Star Trek thing. I don't remember where, but I remember that it exists somewhere.
To quote Shakespeare, pump thine brakes.
I mean, we've already seen how Dune is actually Star Wars, so...
Right. Sand and spice trades.
And the Sim Samurai.
It gets everywhere.
Also,
it's annoying.
So that's where they get the spice from.
Exactly.
Well, there's spice trades in both, yeah.
Clearly from Kissel.
But I feel like, too, with sci-fi, I mean, writing in general is a lot like with music. You only have a certain number of notes, but there are so many different varieties that you can make with those notes.
Right.
So with sci-fi, we only have so many concepts of what the future is like, what time travel is like, what we're going to be able to do with technology. And it's just how you display that technology is what makes your sci-fi different. But it is all still written from...
It's always interesting when people take a different note, and expound on that, and they take a different vision of it, and whereas it may have similarities to something else that's been done, but it's like one of my favorite things on Sci-Fi right now has been on Apple TV Plus has been The Foundation, and I've been watching that over and over again, and it's not technically a new sci-fi. I mean, it's Asimov. I mean, it's
right.
It's a little back. It's been back there a little ways, but the show itself and the way that they're doing things, there are clearly, the sci-fi tropes that are standard for many shows that we've watched and we've seen and all this different. But this is sci-fi. This is what sci-fi looks like. It's something new. It's something that's pushing the boundaries and the envelopes. And to me, that's what sci-fi is. The sci-fi that sits in the same chair and doesn't move itself forward, doesn't try to become something new or better, gets left behind. And to me, that's what sci-fi is. So when I think of the hashtag "This is sci-fi," I'm looking for something that's new and that's different, and something that maybe I haven't been exposed to before.
But still oddly comforting.
Yeah. So for like a perfect example for me for this, other than Foundation, clearly, which I just mentioned, was now before the use of the "This is sci-fi" hashtag, I never watched Alita's Battle Angel, never cared to watch Alita's Battle Angel. Yeah, I know.
You're talking to one of the prime motivators of the Alita Army. I'm the host of the live stream for the Alita Army, so yeah.
So I'm getting there. But because of that hashtag, that's something that I has now got my attention, and I'm paying it, and I'm looking at, I'm watching, and frankly trying to get some of the people from that movie on our show, and and hoping we can make that happen.
I know how tricky that is.
We haven't been told no yet, so I mean, technically, the possibility is still there.
That's even like I feel like I can make things worse because Tim's just getting into it, and I had never heard of it until just now.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think.
Kathleen gets kicked out in 5, 4,
Right?
3.
So
It only took you a year to realize I'm a faker.
They have
A
ejection
motherfucker.
seats in spaceships. I just wondering. Asking for a
As I was looking through that thread, I came across one of those little known sci-fi things. It was Titan AE.
Oh,
And-
that's a good.
Oh yes,
It's one of those movies that is like top-notch sci-fi, and it's got the aliens, it's got the explosions, it's got everything that you want in your sci-fi type film. And I like being able to find like those little gems that are like, wait, why wasn't this more popular type thing?
Right.
yeah.
There's a lot of those, luckily.
Yeah, and that's the important. I think that's, in my opinion, the importance of the hashtag, and why I have what I have noticed so far, and going through the threads is how people are discovering things. It could be old things that they never heard of before, or it could be new things that are out now. Gia, can you speak?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I
mean,
so badly was
most of
hoping
your
he would be like,
images-
woof, good boy. Sorry.
Most of the images are frozen on my side.
I think he must have sacrificed a goat to the gods of technology, and now we can hear him.
And
Oh, and he's
And
gone.
gone.
it was apparently not a good.
It was not a big enough go.
Should have been a bison.
It's no goats. Come on.
Are you running out
Am I
of
back
goats,
yet?
Jim Keller? You are.
Am I back yet?
Yes, you are.
We need to get you a second
I'm
hamster.
not
for that
here,
wheel.
right? Can you guys see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. No, I just again.
I think we need to move. We need to help Giancarlo's move to the upper floors, just like in the TV show Upload, because he's in the 2 gig floors. You know.
Yeah.
He's in the 9800 board
Practically.
floor, I think, in the basement.
I think he's in the 56K dial-up floor.
No, 9800 board is actually worse. 56K was an upgrade, I remember.
Oh yeah.
Actually, you know what? You're right. Yeah, you are right. I
Yeah.
remember those days. The days of the handshake.
I remember dial-up, but that's about it.
Yeah.
This was dial-up, but it was...
I don't remember the numbers.
You didn't actually dial up to the internet, you dialed up to message boards.
I remember the sound it made.
Yeah. Me too.
The handshake.
Do it.
Bing, bong, bang.
Do you remember getting knocked off every time someone called you?
Yes.
Halfway through that image you were downloading?
Oh my
took
god.
3
Get
days.
off the phone. I need to call your grandmother.
LimeWire.
Yeah, but I just got to the page I wanted, Mom. Anyway,
Oh my god. Good
Try
old
to use it for
times.
schoolwork, and it's taking 6 hours for Encyclopedia Britannica to load.
yeah, that's what I was looking at. Anyway,
You look over, and you look over and there's one on the shelf in the lounge.
Well, yes, but I wanted the.
But I don't want to use that. I want to use internet.
Well, I wanted the updated version, not the 1980 version. I wanted the 2000s version. Things had changed.
No, they got me the one that you,
anymore. It's now called
the
Myanmar.
one with the fax sound before connection. Mine is the one with the fax sound before connection.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next segment.
Shout out.
Oh, Jim Keller went ahead of us.
And in the shout outs section, I want to bring out a shout out to Cinema Recall. They're always helping us out on Twitter. Great podcast. If you never heard, you should go ahead and pick it up. I actually had the guys in one of the episodes for season 1, so you guys can download that. But mainly they have helped us out a lot through on Twitter, and they actually they have every time they they have any post, they actually have one of our ads running on their show. So thank you to the guys to Cinema Recall. And also I want to point out that if you heard that This is Sci-Fi ad, the voice for This is Sci-Fi at the end is Nikky from In Bed with Nikky. So thank you, Nikky, for that recording. And any of you guys want to do any shout-outs?
Yeah, we were just, I was just recently on an episode with Growing Up Skywalker. They are a fun couple, and she has never really watched Star Wars, and he is a huge Star Wars fan. So what they do is they're watching it chronologically, and they are bringing this, like, just having a discussion about the series. And when it comes to, like, they're even doing the Clone Wars cartoons, and so when they'll do those in like segments or arcs, and so it was just a lot of fun to hang with them, and like we dive really deep into like the episodes and talk about who their favorites are and just some of the details in each of the episodes. And I really love hearing it from someone who had never watched Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And like, this is her first go at it all the way through. And so, yeah.
It's always so much fun to hear both opinions on a show from someone that is coming fresh into a property and someone that is known into that property. So I love those kind of perspectives.
I always find it fascinating that there are people who haven't watched Star Wars. Like, growing up watching Star Wars, I'm like, wait, there are those people still exist?
Yeah, they're called Irish.
There's people who haven't watched all of Star Trek either.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
True.
Nobody here, obviously.
Well, I have watched every single Star Trek there is. Every single one. Every single Star Wars there is.
Have you watched the new one? Prometheus? The animated one?
Prodigy?
Yes, all the animes.
Prodigy, that's it. Yeah.
All the animated ones. And as a matter of fact, my wife just started watching Lower Decks. And she has
Lower
so
Decks
many
is
questions. I'm sorry?
Lower Decks is fun.
Yes. But she has so many questions. And I actually told her, would you like to watch it in a timeline order? So I actually created a list. And we're going to start, hopefully, next week we're going to start.
Woo.
Nice. So we're going to watch the whole thing, and including animation. I'm including and also the one from Kirk. I don't know if you've seen that one. If I think it was in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, that animation.
Oh yeah, I know that one. It was 73.
Yeah, 73.
Yeah.
So we're gonna watch everything: movies, TV shows, everything, all in order.
It was a really cheap semi-animated
timeline order.
Timeline order. Okay.
I actually have the years next to each one.
Oh my goodness! So my cousin and her husband, when they were dating, he's like, so I'm a big Star Trek fan, and she's like, okay, that's fine. I'm not super into Star Trek, but whatever. He's like, okay, but I want to watch them in Stardate order with you. And I'm like, he said that, and I'm like, you're gonna what? I'm like, if she makes it through watching these in Stardate order, marry her, because nobody else is going to agree to that. Like, at all.
Well, my wife agreed to that.
That's awesome.
We're gonna do that. I can actually send you the list that I compiled because I try to find.
I appreciate that because I would probably also watch them in Stardate order.
Yeah, I try to find one, and there's so many lists out there, but they were never complete. They were missing.
I like doing that with shows, though. It's fun. I've done that with. I did it with Doctor Who and Torchwood with release order because there are some stories that overlap. Doing that with Angel and Buffy, making sure that you get those in the right orders. There's been a few.
I did that with Stargate and Stargate Atlantis.
Mm-hmm. Warehouse 13 and Eureka, because there's crossover episodes there too.
Oh my God, my wife is a huge fan of Warehouse 13. Huge.
I love that show so much.
She's telling me every single day, when are you going to record an episode on that? And I'm like,
I gotta watch it.
That show.
I haven't seen it.
oh, that show is amazing.
I was so bummed when they stopped that show. It was so much fun.
Have you guys, because it's sci-fi, have you guys heard of an anime called A Certain Scientific Railgun?
No.
You should check it out. It's on Netflix at the moment. But it's very sci-fi. It's really interesting, and it's actually a spin-off from another one called A Certain Magical Index, and that apparently in every single episode there's a date somewhere hidden in the episode, so you can actually date all the episodes, and there's an ultimate chronological order you can watch them in.
Ooh.
And it's quite extensive, so because there's like multiple 24 episode seasons of both of them.
And there are three separate animes that connect to each other. Right?
Oh yeah, because there's a certain scientific accelerator as well.
Yeah, they all connect.
He starts out as a bad guy, but turns quasi good after getting his ass kicked. Put in his place.
You get shown the error of your ways is hard enough, you know.
Well, he was unstoppable there for a while.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay,
so we're going to move to the next segment.
The Outer Remnant.
And this is a segment where we mentioned other places that we have been in case you like what we have to say and you want to get a little bit more of us. I'm going to go ahead and start. Then Ray, and then if you guys, the Funny Science Fiction Podcast, can bring up another one, you guys are invited too. I just came up on the show called the Manic, Pixie, Weirdo with Abigail. It was lots of fun. I never say no to an opportunity to geek out, and that's just what we did in that show. So you guys, if you have not heard of the Manic, Pixie, Weirdo, go ahead and put it on your list because it's a really good show. Right?
Well, I guess I'm beginning to sound like a bit of a broken record, but of course I'm on a live stream every Saturday afternoon US called Radio Chaos, which is the official Alita Army live stream, where the fandom that's attempting to convince Disney to produce a second Alita movie, and we're hopeful that this year we might hear some action. As I've said in previous podcasts, the director, Robert Rodriguez, has said that when the Book of Boba Fett, which he was director for and producer, finishes airing, he's going to be going to Disney with a pitch for Alita 2, and we're all, on tenterhooks waiting to hear something about that. But of course, as a fandom, our job won't finish once we've convinced Disney to greenlight it. Then we've got to, be super excited and get everybody else interested, like members of the good panel here who have just discovered or are about to just discover Alita Battle Angel. It is a fantastic movie. It's not perfect, but it's perfect to the people who love that sort of thing. So, it is the best manga adaptation, Western manga adaptation that there has been so far, until Alita 2, of course.
Yeah,
and I did add it to my watch list. So
I'm very curious to hear from you guys after you've seen that movie.
Yes,
because apparently, everyone that I know so far that have seen that movie becomes part of the Alita Army right after it finishes.
Huh.
And what are the requirements?
Oh, the entry bar is very low. You just have to like the movie and want a sequel. That's it.
All right.
Very simple. Very simple.
But we have a live stream on YouTube every Saturday afternoon US, Sunday morning down here in Australia. And this week we were talking about the manga and what is it like to live in the Badlands, which is away from the city of Zalem / the scrapyard, which in the movie is Zalem. Well, Tafari is in the English version of the manga, but Zalem in the movie, and Iron City in the movie, but the scrapyard in the manga. They play with the names a little bit, but basically there's a huge area around it which is sort of desertified. Is that a word? But
It is now.
Yeah, it's basically Badlands, if you know what the definition of that is. But it was an interesting discussion. We have lots of fun. We get guests in much like this, and it's a good time. So if you're at all interested in the movie or the manga of Alita Battle Angel Alita is the manga. I recommend it. And check us out.
If we join, do we get like cool T-shirts or at least like shoulder patches?
Well, I am wearing a Battle Angel T-shirt right now. Oops, wrong way.
Oh, there you go. Cool.
I mean, I at least got like a business card on how to join Starfleet. So can I at least get a business card?
Something to show our affiliation.
Starfleet also told me it's $5 a year.
Cool hand gesture. I don't know. Whatever. So
Awesome.
there you go. I can do that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys have any other places that you have been aside from your podcast, or any of you, or?
Well, yeah.
Mine's kind of a shameless plug, but also a different show. Tim and I started a show last September called Pop Culture Addicts that we have been having a blast on. Our first interview with that one was with Carol Baskin, who got her fame from Tiger King, which was an interesting way to start off a new show when she says that you can't put people in with tigers because they'll eat them bones and all. And Tim and I both kind of looked at each other with the, why do you know that? You're not supposed to know that. But we've had some pretty fun guests. Ed Bigley Jr. was our guest a few weeks ago. We've got an interesting interview coming up soon with a woman named Pauline Irene Stacy. No, Stacy. I don't.
Yes.
It's 3 first names, and it gets really confusing. But she has an interesting book on don't have time to clean. Listen to Pauline. That's an interesting take on cleaning your house. I was amused by her perspective on house cleaning. Of all things, we're on a sci-fi show and we're talking about house cleaning, but
so there's that.
Well, you have to be cleaning space,
right?
You can't afford to let things get dirty.
You know, I think that her cleaning method would actually work very well on a spaceship.
You might shoot that one off to Elon. He might make use of that.
There you go.
Yeah.
It would be
CEO
much
of
easier to clean the tops of things when you're floating. So,
and so recently, Kathleen and I were both on a podcast called the Three Geeks Podcast, and last fall, Nick, Kathleen, and I joined them at a Comic-Con and ran some panels with them. And but yeah, so we've done quite a bit with Three Geeks Podcast. They've also been on Funny Science Fiction a few times. We've tried to get all. I think we've had everybody from the show on.
Don't try to count the geeks. There are more than 3.
They say 3 geeks. It's more like 17. We tease them all the time that they can't, that they lost. They failed. I think probably in 3rd grade at counting. But yeah, really good show. And they talk about sci-fi. They talk about superheroes. They talk about nerd culture. You know.
Why don't they just put
around.
a plus after the 3, so it's 3 plus geeks?
They should, but they're stubborn too. They should say like 3 plus and then in parentheses stubborn geeks. But it's a really good show, and Jason and Max and Justin and Dan and John and Mike McGee. Yeah, there's a whole slew of them over there, but they're all really good friends, and we do a lot of stuff with them, and so but yeah. Always want to tell people to go check them out.
The name 3 Geeks is that they can usually only get 3 of them to have the same schedule.
True.
Usually. And then there's days where suddenly it's 1 geek.
Yeah, it's usually a constant rotation of geeks, and then sometimes it'll be like, oh well, I only think that this person and this person's coming, so we'll be the 3 of us plus you guys, and then like magically everybody else. Yeah, you have a. I've been on their screens literally when we have like 7 or 8 people on, and that's chaos.
So basically, it's the Brady Bunch square.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah. The first thing you ask is who's your Alice. Go from there.
Awesome.
It's just because I'm a girl.
You look good in a maid's outfit, though.
Question for my husband.
Okay, so now we can move on to the main subject. This is fun. This is fun. So, on this episode, we are going to talk about one of the best Star Trek movies ever made, Galaxy Quest. This, and I think you guys brought it up to my attention that we have never done an episode on it, and I couldn't figure out why we have done an episode on this movie yet. But I am so glad you guys brought it up, and you guys are here to talk with us about this movie.
Just like the advertising for the movie original run, it's gone under the radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this movie was a lot of fun. And I don't know at this point who hasn't seen this movie yet. But it's just, to me, at that time, usually sci-fi was boxed in. So you had some, but not many properties out there or TV shows or, movies where, where you have multiple things going on. So it's either drama or sci-fi or comedy. And this was one of the few at that time that it was funny and it was sci-fi at the same time. And I think that's in part why they had trouble in completing this movie with the studios, because they were trying to get outside their box. Do you guys, I don't know if you guys agree with me, or what was your experience when you saw this for the first time? Did you notice, as me, that, this is innovative?
When I saw it for the first time, I was much, much younger.
Pre-mustache.
I think we all were.
Yeah, and it was just one of those like fun films that I really enjoyed watching. And like, to your point, it was like, you keep calling it Star Trek, and it kind of is, because the guy who wrote it ended up, I forget his name, but he was like thinking one day, what if the people on Star Trek had to like actually go out and do their jobs as people in Star Trek? Like, because we know that it's just a TV show, but what if it actually happened?
They're historical documents, Nick. Thank you very much.
They will be historical documents. They aren't yet.
They will be.
I was 29 when that movie came out. And the first thing in my head was, what it would be like to get a call from Captain Kirk, and say, we're in trouble and you're the one that can help us.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's why people, when I say a Star Trek movie and they look at me funny, it's like, well, it has nothing to do. Well, it kind of does, just like you said, because it's about the fandom. Mm-hmm. The movie, it talks, especially when you're so vested into a property, it kind of gives you very meta, though. The more I look at it, it's very meta, because it's like, what would happen if that favorite property that you follow is real, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the middle of it, and since they're kind of following what typically happens on a Star Trek episode or movie, this is why I call it, and not just me. I mean, you can coin, people like Data, and they call it a Star Trek movie because of that reason. It's all about the fandom, and it's just amazing to me, especially since I love sci-fi so much.
Yeah, and I mean, the movie came out in '99, so I was 7 when the movie came out, and it was. I see you wanting to make. I see you over there, Tim, making the face.
I said nothing.
Yeah.
This time.
You just thought it very loudly.
I heard it from over here.
He's a baby. He's a baby. Sorry.
I'm good with
Anyway,
that.
you were
though.
saying.
Like, but I mean, to a 7-year-old, it was a fun story. It was exciting because I was still kind of in that blur between reality and fiction anyway, that you have that, well, what do you mean these characters aren't real? So it fit a lot better with the, no, this could totally happen. This could totally be real. But then you have 29-year-old me who's looking at it with the, man, that would be really cool if that was real. What if suddenly I actually heard the TARDIS landing and this British man run up and grab my hand and tell me to run?
Hurry, run!
If you heard the TARDIS landing, you'd look around for whose ringtone it was, basically.
Right? It was my brother's ringtone for a long time. But like, if all of a sudden there's this dapper British man with a sonic screwdriver telling me to run, I'm not going to question it.
I would. That's the master. Doctor Who's a woman.
There's always that option. But it is a fun play on the, not really making fun of Trekkies, but it is sort of a strange way of honoring them, of honoring the fandom with the, this is how real you guys have made this. We're going to make this movie where they're real. Like, I feel like that's fun. Besides the fact that anybody who's like, well, why should I watch the movie? Alan Rickman. That's why you should watch the movie. No other. That's my solid answer is Alan Rickman.
And it has a lot of solid lessons for kids. Like, I learned from Alan Rickman's character was never give up, never surrender. I don't know where else I was going with that. But
before we go too much further, should I give the rundown of the plot so that people can follow?
Okay.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Cool. Okay, so as you've mentioned, Galaxy Quest. It was 1999. Great time for sci-fi. You know, The Matrix, Fifth Element, Galaxy Quest. It was all happening late 90s. I really enjoyed that time for sci-fi. But obviously, it had a pretty good cast. Tim Allen had just finished his Tim the Toolman Taylor period, so he was very well known in TVs across Western countries. My father was a big fan of that show, actually.
It's a fun show.
More power! My father was always saying that. It was his tag.
I was going to say, my husband speaks in grunts.
Actually, let me give you a really quick quiz and see how much you know. Do you know what NSEA stands for?
Nesbitt?
It's the NSEA Protector. I was just wondering if you know what the acronym is.
National Space Engineering. I don't remember.
Exploration.
Exploration.
Okay. National Space and Exploration Administration. So it was very much almost NASA, but
totally not NASA.
Okay, well, what about this one? Do you know what NTE stands for? This is great. You should know this. This is funny.
Not the Enterprise.
Yeah, that's what it means. Not the Enterprise.
That's cool.
They
like that.
They didn't want to get in trouble with the lawyers, so in case something comes up, they say, "Look, it's right here. Not the Enterprise. We said it."
Well, it's quite odd that DreamWorks Pictures, which has only just been started, one of the major players in setting that up was Steven Spielberg, and obviously this movie came out from Paramount, but Paramount was Star Trek, and this movie came out through DreamWorks. So yeah, they were very worried about getting pinged by the lawyers, so they had to make it really obvious in the name of the ship that it's not the Enterprise. So NTE, and that's why it's there.
We do something similar every week on Funny Science Fiction Podcast. We have a silly introduction that includes what we call the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, and we make sure that it's very clear that this is a satire that is loosely based on something quite similar to Star Trek, but not Star Trek, so that we can't get sued. But Nick's dad wrote a book called The Custodians of the Cosmos about a young man who wanted to try to get into something quite like Starfleet, but not quite like Starfleet for litigious reasons. And he didn't make it, so he rejoined as a custodian to boldly clean up after those who boldly just went. And so And so every week we give that book away to one of our guests on the show, and we send it to them and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so we had these mugs and everything made up, and we were very clear that it's the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund. Shameless plug.
Nice.
So yeah, it says I gave to the. There it is. I gave to the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund.
I showed it on air.
But we make sure that it, quite like the NTE, the RSWOF has nothing to do really with Star Trek, other than the fact that there's the word red shirts in it.
What happened when the stormtroopers shot the red shirt?
They both
died anyway.
Yeah, the stormtrooper missed, and the red shirt died anyway. Yeah.
That's what the book looks like, by the way.
It's actually a fun book.
It's a fun little book. You can get it on Amazon.
Nice.
It's quite enjoyable. So, shameless plug. Sorry. Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah. I was saying the plot, because plot is important.
Yeah, we struggle with sticking to plot.
The cast of an old 1980s space adventure television series, Galaxy Quest, spend most of their days attending fan conventions and making promotional appearances. Though the series conceded former star Jason Nesmith thrives on attention, the other cast members, Gwen, Alexander, Fred, and Tommy, resent him and, to varying degrees, the states of their careers. At a convention, Jason is approached by a group calling themselves Thermians, led by Malthazar, who requests his help. Jason thinks they want him for a promotional appearance and agrees. The next morning, when the Thermians pick him up, Jason is hungover and does not grasp that the Thermians are actually aliens, that he's been transported to a working recreation of the bridge of the NSEA Protector, the starship from Galaxy Quest. Believing he is on a set and must perform in character, he confronts the Thermians' enemy, the evil warlord Saris, who demands the Omega-13, a secret superweapon mentioned in the final scene of the series, which has never been used and whose capabilities are unknown. Given perfunctory order, Jason manages to temporarily defeat Saris. It's Monday morning, you can tell, can't you? After the grateful Thermians transport him back to Earth, Jason realizes the experience was real. He attempts to convince the other cast members, but is rebuffed. When the Thermian, now this is really hard to pronounce, Laliari, I think it is, appears and requests Jason's help again, the cast, thinking it's a job, join him, including their handler, Guy, who played an ill-fated red shirt in one of episode of the series. So therefore, his family would be one of the recipients of that fund that you mentioned. Aboard the Protector, the cast learns that the guileless Thermians believe episodes of Galaxy Quest are true historical documentaries. Inspired by the crew's adventures, they have based their society on the virtues expounded by the show and manufactured a functioning replica of the Protector. Saris returns and attacks the Protector again, and the ship barely escapes through the magnetic minefield. However, the ship's power source, a beryllium sphere, is severely damaged. The humans must travel to the surface of a nearby planet for a new sphere, which they snatch from ferocious childlike aliens. When the humans return to the Protector, they discover that Saris has seized the ship and demands the Omega-13 device. They kind of skip the whole fighting the rock monster thing, which was very Star Trek in its presentation. Jason confesses that he's not the commander and shows Saris the Galaxy Quest's historical documents. Saris understands they are just actors and forces Jason to explain this to the delusion Malthazar, who he was torturing at the time. Saris activates the Protector's self-destruct mechanism and returns to his ship, leaving the Thermians and the cast members to die. The humans formulate a plan to abort the self-destruct and defeat Saris' remaining troops aboard the ship. Jason communicates with Brandon, a Galaxy Quest superfan on Earth, and his network of friends with intimate knowledge of the show. They talk Jason and Gwen through the ship's core to help them get to the abort the self-destruct sequence. Meanwhile, Alexander leads the Thermians against Saris' forces as they take back control of the Protector. With renewed confidence, the crew challenges Saris and draws his ship into the magnetic minefield. This time, the Protector drags magnetic mines into Saris' vessel, destroying it. The Protector approaches Earth to bring the humans home, but Saris, who escaped his ship's destruction by beaming over to the Protector, ambushes them on the bridge and fatally wounds several crew members. Jason manages to activate the Omega-13, which creates a 13-second time warp into the past, giving Jason and Balthazar a chance to disarm Ceres before he repeats his attack. The Protector's Bridge separates from the main vessel and lands the humans on Earth, while the main section of the ship carries Balthazar and the remaining Thermians into interstellar space. Guided by Brandon and his friends acting as beacons, the Protector's Bridge crashes into the Galaxy Quest convention during the last day of the convention, coming to a stop on the main stage after coming through the wall of the stadium. The day's cast emerges from cheers from the fans, but Saris re-emerges to imperil them once again. Jason shoots and destroys Saris. An ecstatic crowd assumes it was all just a massive display of special effects. The cast basks in the adoration of Brandon, his pals, and their fans. Sometime later, Galaxy Quest is revived as a sequel series, Galaxy Quest: The Journey Continues, with cast reprising their roles alongside Guy and Lalari as new cast members. And I get the clap. Nice.
You're muted, Tim.
I saw that. Yeah. Jolly good show.
We had Tim Allen as Jason Neves, Sigourney Weaver as Gwen DeMarco, Alan Rickman as Alexander Dane, who played Dr. Lazarus, Tony Shalhoub as Fred Kwan, who was Tech Sergeant Chen, and Sam Rockwell as Guy. Oh, gosh, that guy was funny. Sam Rockwell did such a good job. And Daryl Mitchell as Tommy Webber, who was supposed to be a little boy, a kid wonder during the original run of the show, but had grown up in the intervening time.
Yeah.
AKA Wesley.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that they have Wesley, when I say Wesley, I had the actor playing Wesley on the documentary, and he was waxing lyrical. In fact, speaking of the documentary, which is on Prime Video, you should check it out. There's a quote at the beginning of it. It says, in 2007, Pulitzer Prize winner David Mamet wrote a book on Hollywood. In it, he listed only 4 perfect films: The Godfather, A Place in the Sun, Dogsworth, and Galaxy Quest.
And The Princess Bride.
Oh, yes. Well, yes.
And Empire Strikes Back. I mean, as long as we're adding stuff onto that list, I'm just going to throw that right on there.
So an interesting thing I came across while kind of looking deeper into this movie. So Tim Allen actually was given a choice, or he was going to be the lead in Bicentennial Man, but he gave that up to go do Galaxy Quest.
Interesting.
Good choice.
And yes. I was like, I am so glad Tim Allen didn't do Bicentennial Man, because
that movie is all I agree.
I think one of the things for me that I really enjoy most about this show is the fact that there's clear and obvious nods to Trek all the way through it. But I love the fact that they didn't take themselves too seriously, and they allowed the story to have some fun to it, right? Because it is a comedy. It is considered sci-fi action, but it's very much a comedy as well and at heart. But I also love, and I didn't realize it back in '99 when it first came out, and I saw it way back when, but I did not recognize or realize the strength of the casting.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back and you look at that casting now, I mean, you look at it, so there's Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, Justin Long, Sam Rockwell, Tony Shalhoub, Daryl Mitchell, Rainn Wilson is in this, Kevin McDonald. Yeah, I mean, there's, and you can keep going. There's Missy Pyle, Enrico, and I can't pronounce Enrico's last name, but there's so many good actors in this. To get a movie like this to get casted today, it almost has to be a Marvel movie, right?
Right.
Where there's this many people attached to it, and this many people. There's so much going on with this. And
the budget was only $45 million, and
which is impressive.
Today,
right?
that would have been. That would have just been the cast members. That wouldn't have been anything else.
Right. Yeah. It would have been the cast members with a green screen behind them, and that's it. So, but yeah, one of the things I still think my 2 favorite cast members on this show are still Sam Rockwell and Justin Long. Mm-hmm. And I like everybody on the show. I think everybody plays their part really well. But I love the fact of how into it and nerdy and geeky Justin Long's teenage character is. You know, even at the end when he's trying to help Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver shut down, you know, the ship from self-destructing, and he gets interrupted. He's got to take out the trash. Mom, I can't tell you how bad your timing is. There's a level 5. You know, he's going through all these things, and just he plays that character so well. And then Sam Rockwell's character, Guy, who was killed. You know, he reminds everybody that I was only on the one episode. I was killed off, and I was this, and I was that, and he wants so desperately to be involved in the show until he's on the ship, and then he's like, I think he faints like 4 times.
Yep, he does.
His character reminds me a lot of me at the time. I mean, look at this, for example. This is just a sample of the kind of books that I had, that I still have, that I bought. I was really into. Like, I don't know if you can see behind me, but I have. So it connects. I like to think that, you know, it just like it connected with me. There you go.
Nice. There you go.
Just like it connected to with me. I like to think that it connected with a lot of people. And I like to say that is kind of like the recipe for success for this movie. And the fact that most of these people, like, I know one of the guys, I can't remember his name, he went into work on Star Trek stuff, and you know, they all are Star Trek fans, and they were very careful, because I remember at that time there was a stigma around, you know, being nerdy around Star Trek. I mean, I used to go to conventions dressed in the Enterprise uniform, and they were very careful, because they were all Star Trek fans, to make sure that this movie was fun, and it's an homage to what it was to be a Trekkie or Trekker, however you identify yourself with.
You know, I also think that, you know, you look at when this movie was released and now where we're at today, without Galaxy Quest, I really don't think there's an Orville.
Yes.
No. Oh, yeah. Galaxy Quest was like the primer for Orville.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, because, you know, so, you know, I often think that when McFarlane was pitching Orville, they said, well, what do you want to do the show like? And he just held up a poster of Galaxy Quest, but, you know, my version. You know, honestly, I'm sure it wasn't that, but in my mind, that's the way it is, because, you know, you look at the Orville, and it's very much an homage to Star Trek and the way Star Trek does things. So
you do know that they were actually going to do a Prime Video series of Galaxy Quest until Alan Rickman died.
Yeah, I was really sad.
They were working on it. So I guess the Orville was, you know, the successor of that, the prodigal son, as it were,
the lucky winner of the short straw. You know,
and it's funny is, like, I've always loved the movie, but now as a mom, and this sounds ridiculous, I actually relate to Alan Rickman's character so much more as a mom, because he is so stinking sick of saying by Grabthar's hammer. and the look on his face, I'm like, it's like any mom when their kid's like, hey mom, look at this. Yeah, I see it. Hey mom, look at this.
Grabthar's hammer. What a savings!
Like,
yeah. When they're doing the store thing.
Yeah, the look on his face though is such a parent look. With the
it is.
I saw it. I told you it was cool.
So interesting. Go ahead,
Nick. Go ahead.
So interestingly, Alan Rickman and Tim Allen. Alan Rickman did not get along with Tim Allen. He was very annoyed with Tim Allen, and that fit perfectly because he literally just did that.
Can you say typecast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Kathleen
a thing.
Just mentioned one of the things.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah. So Kathleen just mentioned, you know, he's like, yeah, he even got to punch him. And I love that in the end of the movie where, you know, he's like, you used to pull your punches. And he's like, well, you know, it fit the scene.
Yeah.
I think the term was actually, you called me a talentless hack.
There it is. Yes. That is it. Yeah. Absolutely.
If you watch the documentary, there's a piece of information that I learned from that I find really interesting and a little funny is when when the commander is telling Balthazar he's been I think he's being tortured in this scene, and the director and the producer and everybody was really concerned about him doing a serious scene because apparently he was a
Tim Allen.
Yeah, Tim Allen. So he was a joker of the of the group, and this is very important because this was a very strong
Emotional
dramatic
scene.
emotional scene. So they wanted to make sure that he conveys that. And I find it so funny every time I hear it, where he's actually did a great job in that scene to the point where he actually goes on saying he's going to go to his trailer because that took a lot out of him emotionally. So he was like teary-eyed. He was feeling the scene. And I think Alan Rickman said, he just experienced acting. So that shows I laugh right now, but that shows how they were interacting, how they didn't like each other and how I think, eventually they grew together, but it kind of shows the interaction they had on scene when you go out on record and say something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was one of those perfect storm sort of movies in that it was originally going to be directed by Harold Ramis, who played Egon in Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. And just as an aside, I really enjoyed Ghostbusters Afterlife. I saw it a couple of days ago, and it was a fantastic addition to the canon. So if you haven't seen Ghostbusters Afterlife, from a Ghostbusters fan from 1980, when I saw it originally at the cinema and loved it to bits and listened to the soundtrack for like the whole summer, I highly recommend it. You should go and see Ghostbusters Afterlife. And we should probably do it on the show because that's lots of science in that as well. As well as ghosts and stuff like that. But I digress. So anyway, Ramis was supposed to be director and he ended up leaving the project. When they cast Tim Allen, he didn't want Tim Allen as the lead, and he didn't think that he could, direct Tim Allen to make a good movie of it, and that's why he stepped down. They lost their director. They had Tim Allen cast as the main lead and nobody else cast. And they're like, what the hell do we do now? And it all just sort of fell together for them. Sigourney Weaver had always wanted to play a more frivolous character because, obviously Ripley's, super serious and has been through hell and all that sort of stuff. And she hardly ever cracks a smile in any of the movies she's in. And she wanted to play something frivolous. And they actually said, oh, I don't think we can cast you, Sigourney, because nobody's been in sci-fi before. And she's like, well, I've never been in sci-fi like this. I've always been serious. And this character is super not serious. And I'll have a blonde wig and additional boobage, and it'll be good. And they finally gave in and let her on take the part, So it all sort of fell together, luckily, into the ensemble cast that we ended up with. And there were so many things in that documentary where they were saying if decisions had just gone the other way. For example, they had the sets 3/4 done, and they were done in that 1960s, cardboard wall. Everything looks cheap and artificial style. And the director walked through there, Dean Prescott. He walked through and went, "This just isn't going to cut it. It's supposed to look real because it is real." And the same for the other effects. Everything needed to look real when it wasn't shown on a small screen because it is real. So they actually went and redid all the sets and made them look as good as they possibly could to get that feel of you've stepped out of acting and into this is real. And it had to show that within the set design and the costume design and all that. And I mean, the actor who played the head of the Thermians, who was that?
Enrico?
Enrico, yeah. They weren't even sure they were going to give him the part, and he came up with the way the Thermians talked and the way they moved and everything, and they're like, wow, that's great. Can we use that? And they hadn't given him the part. And they're like, oh, we want to use that. Well, do I get the part then? So they hadn't even decided. But yeah, he got the part, and he trained all the others to be Thermians. And you can actually see if you watch, like, obviously you're supposed to be focused on the people in the foreground, the actors in the foreground. If you watch the extras in the background trying to do the Thermian marionette walk, some of them have just got no clue, and it actually adds to it because it's funnier.
It's interesting because after the fact, after I learned of that, I actually watched the movie again, and you can kind of see it. It just adds to the fun of watching the movie. It's just so funny.
There's one woman with a terrible bob cut walking through the background, and you can see the look on her face is, what the fuck am I doing with my life? This is amazing.
Isn't that how everybody walks through life?
Kind of.
Speaking of that phrase right there, one of the things I love is that there's the scene where they're Sigourney and Tim Allen are going through the bowels of the ship, and they're trying to get down, and they come out and around the corner. She says "F that" in real life, and they mouth, and if you read her lips, she's not saying "screw that."
No.
Yeah. So Sigourney said "F that," and then they redubbed it and just kept the shot in of her saying "screw that."
Well, that was another one of those lucky decisions because it was Christmas time. The Rugrats movie had just been released, and it was making huge amounts of money, and DreamWorks decided, we've got to tone it down so we can get the kids in there, and DreamWorks were looking at aiming it from 8 to 13-year-olds, but obviously none of them would watch Star Trek particularly much. It was a love letter to people much older than 8 to 13, but that was one of the things where they had to lose. Apparently they'd sworn all the way through the movie, and they had to cut it so that they cut out the swearing, and that was one they couldn't cut, so they dubbed it, and it's actually on another level amusing because that's the sort of thing you see in television shows when they go to another country. They cut stuff. Perfect example is Alita Battle Angel. The one F-bomb that you're allowed in PG-13 is, when she sticks a fist in Garishka's eye and goes, "Fuck your mercy," which I think is a fantastic line. It's not in any other version of the story, and I just think it's great. And they actually dubbed over that in some countries. So it's a thing that happens.
I think it was great that they left it just like that on purpose. So because I think it adds, to how funny this movie is. Where you can, you actually clearly you can see that she's not saying what you can hear she say, and I think that's clever. That's actually very clever.
Yeah, that was one of those things where I read about that, and I was like, no, that's not true. And then I had to go look up the scene, and I, pulled the movie up, got to the scene. Huh. Yeah, that's what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
And just after that, it's beautiful when they press the stop self-destruct button and it keeps counting down. They're like, did we do something wrong? And they're holding each other, waiting for it to go off. It gets to 1 second and stops. He goes, oh, yeah, it always did that on the show.
Always stopped at 1 second.
They were just early. That's all,
Yeah, they were. Because they'd had help.
Oh, man. And that scene is also very funny when they're calling the character, Justin Sloan's character, and he's not responding. It's like, they depend on this guy. They're going to die. And they cut to his scene, and he's taking out the trash.
Mom, I can't tell you how bad your timing is. And I love it, too. Just, a couple minutes later, he's coming down. He's got, like, arms full of, like, where did you find all these fireworks? Like, seriously, this kid has, like, he's got an arm full of fireworks. Where you... And he tries to explain to his mother, how fast the ship's coming in from outer space, and they can't slow down. They're going to have some form of visual identification of where's a safe place to land, and doing all this stuff. And she's like, "Okay, dinner's on at 7." You're like, mom's just completely, whatever. He's enjoying his sci-fi.
I like the fact that the father turns to her and says, "Do you think that's okay?" And she says, "Well, at least he's outside." And the father goes,
right.
Goes back to reading his paper.
It's such a 90s parenting moment with the,
Oh look, it's 2022 as well. Getting my son to go outside is a great difficulty.
See, in the summer, it's hard to get my daughter to come back inside, but that's a whole other...
Well,
as
if
a
they
Gen
had
X
iPads
child,
outside, my son would be out there, but they don't.
Right.
So he isn't.
As a Gen X child, I completely identify with that whole thing. Well, at least he went outside, you know.
Yes.
You know. So what if he loses his hand? He'll lose it outside. It'll be fine.
My husband's the same way, because the number of times that his mom would be like, well, I need you to do this right now. I'm in the middle of an MMO. It doesn't pause. I don't care. It's like, but it doesn't pause.
I get that from my wife now.
Right?
I try to, if I see him doing something, I'll be like, hey, is that something that can pause or not? And then it'll be well, yeah, it can. I'm like, okay, so I need you to pause it. But I try to be nice occasionally.
Well, understanding your children's context is very important to show that you respect them. Same goes for husbands, but that doesn't happen.
Oh yeah, no, totally husbands too. It's more of the showing my daughter that I respect my husband, so that she realizes that mom and dad respect each other. You should respect mom and dad too. Like, can we work this both ways? But she's 3. She's complicated.
Awesome. I just gotta point out, like, some of the similarities that this movie has with Star Trek. One of the scenes that I remember the first time that I saw, and I don't know if you guys let me know if you noticed this or if you felt the same way as I did. The fight scene on that planet with a rock character.
Grignac.
The whole scene, granted, it's not exactly the same, but it reminds me of that Gorn fight with Captain Kirk.
Well, yeah.
That's what it was meant to do.
Yeah, loss of the shirt, and, you know, I see you managed to lose your shirt.
Interesting.
You know, actually, he was meant to be shirtless for the rest of the movie, and he said, no, I'm not doing it. That's why that shirt just appeared in the digitizer room.
It's kind of funny how the shirt was magically there, you know, after the scene was over.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! Yeah, this is all kinds of fun. This movie.
Yeah, it's one of those that I like, and I mean no disrespect when I say this. To me, this is actually a high compliment when I say this. I love things that I call background movies. It's a movie that I can put on. I can walk out of the room. I can do what I need to do. I can come back in, and I don't feel like I've lost anything. I know exactly where I'm at in the movie. It can play in the background and it allows me to do other things, but I can still enjoy the movie. So for me, background movies, you know, like Star Wars, you know, pick a Star Wars. It doesn't really matter which one. Those are background movies to me. Those are things that I can put on. I can watch. I can walk out of the room. I can, you know, Marvel movies. A lot of them are that way for me. There are some that I have to sit down and pay attention to, but still, this Galaxy Quest to me is a background movie. I can have it on. I can be doing a couple different things here or there around the house, and I can come back in and I can pick up right where, you know, the next part of the scene and not feel like I've lost anything and still enjoy the movie.
And I actually really like movies like that, because it is I don't want to necessarily watch this scene, or this part of the movie bores me, I'm going to go do whatever. But then you like hear the music change. You're like, wait, no, I like that scene. I'm going back for that one. I do that with Galaxy Quest and Princess Bride and Robin Hood Men in Tights.
And to find out you never actually get the thing you want to get done because you actually just sat and watched the whole movie.
Well,
and you just get up and go, but you come back real quick.
Or the George of the Jungle movie with Brendan Fraser is one of the other ones that I'll just put on in the background.
Ursula, you dropped your scrunchie.
There's only one scene in that whole movie that I like, and the rest of the movie annoys me. Yeah.
Oh
There's
my
only
gosh,
one scene in the whole movie. It's the eating of the coffee grounds. Chuff, 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 chuff. Just because it's a fun soundbite.
I kind of wonder what part of the movie makes it what you described this movie as being a background movie. Is it the good writing that allows you to follow the movie even though you missed certain portions of it? Or is it the fact that you have watched it so many times? I mean, I'm just speaking to myself because I've seen this movie so many times. What do you think, in your particular opinion, makes this movie that background movie? Is it the writing that is well enough that you can pick the scenes and understand the entire movie, missing scenes, or is it because you watched this movie so many times?
Well, for me, typically a background movie is something that I've watched a number of times, and there's some level of an emotional attachment to, because I have an enjoyment with that movie, or there's a memory attached to that movie, or something along those lines. For Galaxy Quest, it's the combination of, I like the story, and I've watched it so many times. So it's something that I can. For me, that's typically where I come in with a background movie. There's like I said, it's got to be an emotional attachment. There's got to be a memory attached to it, or there's a certain level of enjoyment that I get out of that movie that maybe has nothing to do with those other two things. But it allows me to keep coming back to it over and over again, where I never feel tired of having watched it. Like, I watched Galaxy Quest again today, in prep for coming on tonight, and I still got quotes wrong, and that's okay. But I'll probably watch it again later this week, because the movie to me is just that funny. And again, as a background movie, it's something I can do while I'm sitting here, because I'm at my office right now. My recording studio is here at the office. I'll sit here while I'm designing shirts and logos for people, and I'll be doing that kind of stuff. And I'll have a second monitor right here where I play movies on and things like that. So a lot of times it's Star Wars. A lot of times it's, I'll have something from the MCU on. I'll have something along those lines. I guarantee you this week I'll be watching Galaxy Quest again.
And that's the reason why I ask, and I'm going to ask Catherine the same question as well. And that's the reason why I ask is to get a little bit more understanding on what it is to be a background movie.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page as Tim with I have good memories of watching the movie. It's a fun movie. I've watched it enough times that I can quote scenes, or I can say lines before characters do in scenes. And it is one of those, there's a common thing with people who have anxiety that they will go back and watch the same TV show or the same movie over and over because it's calming to their brain, because they know what's going to happen in it. They know that show is not going to change. It's a consistency thing. And Tim and I are both anxious people. We can't help it.
I have not watched The Office over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Everyone's just like Guy. Hey, don't open that. It's an alien planet. Is there air? You don't know.
And then the way that he does is
seems all right.
But I mean, I do that with movies. I do that with Doctor Who, with How I Met Your Mother, The Office, shows that I know that I'm
so called out here.
that are consistent. Those stories are not going to change, and I can start them up and not pay attention to them, but come back and feel that I'm still in a safe spot because that episode is still the same. And that's that same thing with comfort movies with Galaxy Quest is that movie's going to end the same way every time.
Yeah.
The same jokes are going to be made. The same stunts are going to happen. And it gets to the point where you've seen it so many times that you're comfortable with it. And I will frequently, if I'm cleaning my kitchen or I'm doing dishes, I will have my tablet running with a TV show playing. And it's I'm still focused on dishes, but I can be like, oh, wait, no, I like that scene and watch it and then go back. And it is that it's background noise, but it's happy, consistent background noise.
Familiarity.
Jump in and out of.
Yeah. There's the air of familiarity where you're not feeling like you have to be tied to something, where if it's a new movie or a movie I haven't seen very often or very much of, like tomorrow, if the new Batman movie were to come out on HBO Max, which is not going to for a couple of weeks to a month, I think yet. But if that were to come out tomorrow, that would not be a background movie because I'd want to sit back down and really pay attention to it and make sure that I was understanding all the little bits and pieces of it so that I knew what was going on. But
the Dark
Galaxy
Knight,
but the Dark Knight, yeah, I could put on and walk out like, oh, okay, this is an unimportant scene. I'll come back and for the next scene where Joker stabs the pencil into somebody's eye. But that's different.
Best scene of the entire movie. Love that movie. But,
awesome.
yeah, no, it's.
I was catching up watching it again last night while I was lifting weights. So yeah, I get that you don't have to give it 100% attention and still follow along with it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely on my list of feel-good movies where I don't know what to watch. Okay, I'll just throw this on.
Right. It's the fun of it.
Yeah. I do that with a lot of shows. I have Diagnosis Murder on DVD because of that. Because I can go through and be like, I want to watch that episode. But
I wonder what Dad would what would happen on this if a TV show ever gets made, because now it's going to be part
it's called The Orville.
Well, they did mention, about a year ago, Tim Allen was talking about how there was, even though Alan Rickman had passed, they were going to do a Galaxy Quest 2, and that a script had been written, and he said it was quite a lovely script. I haven't heard anything since then. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know if it's actually ever going to happen, if it's actually ever going to come to pass. And I actually, in some respects, I kind of hope that they don't make it. Because, the thing that I'm always worried about is, like, if they were, a couple months ago or 6 months ago, I think it was, there was a big push to remake Princess Bride.
Oh no!
And I'm like, no, please don't, don't touch it, no. And it'd be the same thing, honestly, with this. I worry about somebody making, and this is probably where my general anxiety disorder kicks in, is that I worry about them touching and messing up the things that I know, that I love, that I have familiarity with, and then, because then what if it's not as good, right? What if the sequel sucks?
Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. You don't mess with something that's damn near perfect.
Exactly. And that was actually one of the quotes that I saw used against the argument for Princess Bride remake. It's actually a Princess Bride quote that people used. With there's a shortage of perfect breasts in the world, it would be pity to damage yours. There's a shortage of perfect movies. Don't touch it.
Yeah, actually, I think Wesley, played by Carrie, I never say his last name right. Is Els? Yeah, we'll say Els. Sorry, Carrie, pretty sure I screwed up your last name. But
if we ever get him on our show, he'll tell us how to say it.
Exactly. But he used that quote from the movie, there's a shortage of perfect movies. It'd be a shame to, damage this one.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he was very much against it. And other cast members are very much against, anybody touching that movie. And God, I hope they don't touch that movie. Anyway.
Mandy Patinkin was pretty outspoken about it too.
Yeah.
Unless it was the Muppets.
Okay. That's the one caveat. I would totally watch a Muppets version of this with like two humans in it.
So you want Fraggle Quest with the crew from Pigs in Space?
Yeah.
I could do that. You give me Fraggle Rock with Galaxy Quest, Fraggle Quest. Oh my God.
That would be brilliant.
Yeah. I could watch that all day.
The homage of homage.
Oh my God. Tie in Fraggle Rock.
But a Muppet remake would be better. Yes. If you're going to remake a movie, Muppet make it. That's fine.
Especially if it's Princess Bride, it has to be the big brown dude. I can't remember his name, but he has to be the Brute Squad. He has to be Andre the Giant's character.
Yeah.
Sweetums.
Yeah, Sweetums. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. There's so many cool ways you could do this with Muppets.
But like, I would want the Muppet cast, but then still Mandy Patinkin in as Inigo Montoya, even though he's old now. It's still Mandy Patinkin.
I think Gonzo could do a good Inigo Montoya.
Oh, he could. That would be fun. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I can deal with that.
You killed my father! Prepare to die!
Ugh.
Awesome.
See, the only problem I would have with a Muppet remake of that is that Piggy that would then be Buttercup. And Piggy's too piggy for that. Like,
she could be Princess Princess Humperdinck, and then like have like it flipped kind of thing.
oh. Interesting.
How woke of you.
Gender swap the whole cast. That would be trippy.
I just want to see Kermit as a Dread Pirate Roberts and have him trying to, yeah. Oh, Kermit. Anyway.
Well, you sort of have that in Muppet Treasure And again, somehow the Funny Science Fiction podcast goes to
sidetracks a whole conversation. Yes.
Well,
Muppets. How do we do?
The Funny Science Fiction podcast just took over Science Fiction Remnant.
Without trying, I'd like to point out, it just happened. It was not intentional.
I love it.
It's kind of our jam. It's what we do.
Can I drag us back to the movie for a minute? I wanted to make one
Oh,
point.
fine. Whatever. It's your show. Do what you want.
Well, it's the tone of Galaxy Quest that I really find quite amazing, because you have a lot of movies that have one... They're like one-trick ponies, and you get, you know, it's either grungy or it's silly, or, you know, they have a theme and they just run with it. This movie bounces between comedy, drama, science fiction, love story.
Action.
It goes everywhere.
Yeah.
And it does it so well. And you never know what the next scene's going to hold. And it's one of those sort of, what's going to happen next? Because, you know, a lot of movies, once you pick the tone, it's like, yeah, it's going to be like this. And it invariably is like that. And that's just the way it is. And it's amazing that there was an original script going around. The only thing they took from it was, how would the actors react if they ended up in the real situation from their iconic show? That was the only thing they took from that script. And actually, the guy who wrote the screenplay for this wasn't allowed to read the original script. They said, just take that premise and run with it. And certain things like the way they did the sets flip-flopped around, but it all fell into place in the end. And it's that tonal variation in each scene that makes it really interesting. I mean, when Alan Rickman's character spends the entire movie hating his tagline, and then when the guy who modeled himself after his TV characters dying, when Quellic's dying, he's like, he gets his Shakespeare on, and he gives him that quiet rendition of the line, and he actually means it for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And then he goes out there and kicks the shit out of the bad guys for him. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty enjoyable.
That's one of the great things that I love about this movie is he goes everywhere, and he does it well. You know.
Got his hair coming out from underneath his cap, and
because he's just gone hawk on this whole, you know, corridor of aliens, and they're like trying to hold him back at the end. Rickman comes around the corner. He's like, "Wow!"
And they're like grabbing him and dragging him back. No, Thermians can deal with it.
He's done. He's done.
I kind of love it when they say, was it at the end? They said, "Don't mind him. He's British." Oh my God!
It's another example of really tight screenwriting. Like if you look at the difference, this is jumping tracks, something shocking. But if you look at the difference between the original Ghostbusters and the remake of Ghostbusters in 2016, which is by comparison a terrible movie, I've got to admit. But if you look at the way some of the scenes are written, the writing in the original Ghostbusters is so tight. And they use a combination of spoken words and just actions and movements. And the elevator scene in Ghostbusters where they turn on we got an unlicensed nuclear particle accelerator strapped to our backs. You know the one?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then he flicks the switch and it goes, boo, and they all sort of just try to make space in the elevator and get away from it. That scene is, I think it's 26 seconds long. In the remake, it was like 5.5 minutes to do the same thing. And I'm just talking about the eloquence and the way that Ghostbusters was written to do so much with the minimum amount. It happens the same in Galaxy Quest. Everything's written so tightly. It all flows. There's no there's no, well, that doesn't link, that doesn't make sense. And as a writer myself, I really appreciate when something's well written, and this is well written.
Agreed.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a tightly written movie. It flows very well. The character and the casting adds to that. And when you have a nicely written story with a perfectly cast movie, you're going to get good things, and that's why we have the movie we have. So,
Awesome.
Excellent.
Should we move on to the?
Sure.
Let's go ahead and move on to the last segment.
And no, I'm not reading his mind. There's a private chat, so we know what's going on.
Okay. So, what do we have, Ray?
Well, actually, this movie's a little bit tricky in coming up with technologies that are clearly influencing what's being worked on today or what has been produced. Because all of the props and everything that they were using was so generic and nothing was touched on with any great detail that unlike movies like Logan's Run, where you could see some really obvious technologies there that we're seeing in use now, or are coming into use now, there's nothing really in Galaxy Quest that stands out as a technology that human beings sort of aspiring to. So I thought, as this is a homage to Star Trek and a number of other science fiction properties that are similar, I thought I'd go for the whole homage angle with 11 ideas that went from science fiction to reality, just as an in general statement. This is actually from space.com. Obviously, the mobile phone, the flip phone from original Star Trek,
right?
The communicators. The universal translator, which is something that people have longed for a long time when traveling. And now with Google Translate, and I believe there's an earbud now that you can get. Yeah. You just pop in your ear and it will listen to conversations and translate them into your preferred language and give you a quick rundown. It's not perfect, of course, translation being what it is and things being lost in it. But at least you get some idea of what's being spoken to you rather than standing there scratching your head and making strange hand gestures that don't always mean the same thing in the same country. Teleportation. Now, this one's a bit dodgy because the only thing human beings have actually managed to teleport are photons. So we've got a little ways to go from a photon to a whole person. But we can actually teleport photons thanks to quantum entanglement. So that is something that is being worked on right now, and hopefully we'll get to the point where it's more functional than just moving little photon particles around. 3D holograms. Obviously, the most well-known 3D hologram was Princess Leia being projected by R2-D2 on Tatooine in the original Star Wars, and Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, created a real hologram in 2018. And it kind of works like an Etch-a-Sketch toy, but it uses particles at very high speeds. And obviously lasers are involved because lasers are cool. So that's one that's lasers. Exactly. All good plans involve lasers. Oh, no, hang on, that was explosives. My bad.
Why not both?
Exactly. So bionic limbs. Obviously, Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, when Luke's getting his new forearm and hand at the end of the movie. Yep, that one. That is obviously being worked on at the moment. Tilly Lockie, who was involved with the red carpet in the UK of Alita Battle Angel, received 2 bionic forearms from Cameron and Rodriguez as part of the movement of cyber technology, and she's now an advocate for the knowledge and awareness of cyber limbs as replacements for lost limbs, and that's coming along quite well. There's been some jumps in technology there in the last 5 years. Digital billboards, obviously Blade Runner is a big source of interest for giant digital billboards, which we have seen increasingly used on freeway overpasses and things like that these days. You probably can't drive too far in the US without seeing one. And obviously, billboards have been around for a long time, but actually having a digital billboard that can change what's displayed on there means that you can get many more advertisements than you would with just, sticking something up there and walking away. So, that works from both the advertiser's perspective and, making it big and interactive with a bit of movement. Of course, they can't have too much movement or you distract the eye from the driver, and that could be very bad. It's like a big cell phone, distracting you as you're driving. Artificial intelligence from Blade Runner, obviously the replicants. That's being worked on at the moment. And they're training, astronomers have been training AI to detect exoplanets. So the AIs are now finding new planets for us. Whether or not we get to claim them or the AIs will claim them is another thing entirely. Awesome. And a couple from one of Robert's favourite movies, which is 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is space stations. If you've had a look at the designs on YouTube for the space station that Elon Musk is planning, very reminiscent of the space station in 2001: A Space Odyssey, including the rotating gravity.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the computer system as well that they're copying over.
Let's not have that one. I don't like that one very much. It gets confused too easily. Sorry, spoilers. We're all about spoilers.
Al, I can't do that.
No, that's right.
Hello, computer. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Computer. So tablets from 2001: A Space Odyssey. I believe that 2001: A Space Odyssey was the first instance of tablets in science fiction. They were used in Star Trek, but they were used in Star Trek later on. So 2001 pips Star Trek for that, although Star Trek pips 2001 for which one was produced first. So there's that one. And hoverboards from Back to the Future Part 2. Now, they do have working hoverboards, but unfortunately you can't run them over normal ground. They have to be run over huge copper arenas which produce a magnetic field, so the two magnetic fields bounce off each other and keep the hoverboard aloft. So we do have hoverboards, but they're only in limited places. And they're actually looking at using that technology in moving pallets around in warehouses, because the warehouse floor would have the copper flooring required to produce the anti-gravity, and then you'd have the sort of a hover pallet controller, robotic pallet controller moving the pallets around using anti-gravity technology. So that's pretty cool. Driverless cars, Total Recall, the original from 1990, had the Johnny Cab. Everybody remembers the Johnny Cab?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, Teslas and the driverless cars probably sourced from there. So that would have been a big influence from that one. So there's 11 technologies that are being worked on or are in use today that came from science fiction.
Interesting.
There you go. Cool.
Awesome. And I guess that brings us to the end of the show. And I really want to thank you guys for coming over. I was on your show. I have a lot of fun. And I am so glad that I was able to bring you over here and we have the same level of fun in our show. So I really, really want to thank you for that. Again, for all those who are listening. I'm sorry?
I have one more. I have one more just before we go on. So I was thinking about, if the TV show was in the 80s, So that the TV signals were leaving, this is in the movie in Galaxy Quest, were leaving from the 80s and spreading out. How far would those signals have gotten to come into contact with the Thermians, right? And I thought, no, it couldn't have possibly got far enough to be in a vaguely inhabitable area of the galaxy where the Thermians could have evolved and have seen them. I was wrong. TRAPPIST-1, has anybody heard of that planetary system? No. TRAPPIST-1? We see. I have a son who's mad keen about space. So TRAPPIST-1 is a system of 7 planets, all roughly Earth size, orbiting a red dwarf star, and it's about 40 light years away. 40 light years is how far the signals from 1982 to 2022 would have travelled. The TV show signals. So if there's Thermians on TRAPPIST-1, they can now see what was happening in 1982 TV on Earth.
That is really cool.
If they can pick up the signal. So there you go. It's unlikely.
Historical documents.
That's right. Historical documents.
So when
they'll be watching Knight Rider and Magnum PI.
Yeah.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Original Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers.
Nice. So, thank you so much for coming in our show. If you guys, for all of you guys are listening, if you have not listened to Funny Science Fiction Podcast, you should go and listen now. I had a lot of fun in there, and I have fun every time I listen to them. So thank you so much for coming in our show. Thank you. Just one more time, if you want to, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check and you can catch Nick, Kathleen, and I. I'm Tim. Hi. I is Tim. You can catch Nick, Kathleen, and I on Funny Science Fiction every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our live show. And then every Friday morning, we have a pre-recorded show that will come out not only on our YouTube channel, but also on wherever you get your favorite audio podcast providers like Apple, Spotify, Google. I could go down the list, but I think everybody knows what I mean there. And then, of course, you can find us on any of your social medias with the user handle @FunnySciFi.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I just really hope that you guys can come back for future episodes.
I'm sure we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And you guys, see you later.
Bye.